Let's run it back to the greatest sneaker event I've ever been on. Welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't already, why don't you hit that subscribe button. Today is story time. I'm going to tell you about the greatest sneaker event I've ever been on in my entire life. Have you ever read the magazines of Sneaker Freaker, Soul Collector, Kicks magazine, and always wanted to be with those people or in that world? I have. I always wanted to meet certain people in those magazines. As a sneaker collector and enthusiast, those people I felt I was drawn to that world. And for 2 straight days, I got to enjoy being in that world and feeling the emotions and the excitement about sneaker collecting that I've never felt before, and meeting people that collect sneakers or are involved with sneakers in some way that have the same similar passions as I do was crazy. So enjoy what I'm going to tell you about this sneaker event I went on. First off, I arrived in Portland, Oregon in late August for 2 days. And when I arrived there, we ended up going to a rooftop patio to introduce ourselves to other collectors and sneaker enthusiasts. And I met people that I've always wanted to meet, such as Andrew, aka the Sneaker Preservation Society on Instagram, Soul to Soul, aka Seth. I've been following him since he's been in Soul Collector, so since I was 15 years old. He's a little bit older than me, probably I think he's about 5 years older than me, but still, we shared very similar interests with Andre Agassi, Michael Jordan, Penny Hardaway, and shoes in his collection. Meeting those guys at the bar and getting to interact with them was amazing. I also got to meet that night for the very first time Aaron Cooper in real life. I shook his hand and thanked him for all the great Nike designs he brought in the late 90s. We got to know each other quite well over the trip, and I think I can consider him as a friend now, not just someone I've talked to on Instagram. All in all, that night of meeting the people was crazy because all these people had similar interests to me, and it was pretty awesome. So as the night ended, the bar closed, but most of the guys were staying at the same hotel. And I got to hang out with a couple of the guys, and we went back to one of the hotel rooms where one of the collectors had brought some sneakers to show at the sneaker event that we were putting on the next day. And we go into his hotel room. He didn't bring in an amount. It wasn't the amount of sneakers he brought. It was the sneakers that he had with him, which was a crazy collection of mostly late 70s, early 80s footwear. And he had some rare Air Jordan metallic ones in the orange, which was crazy to see, and they were in like immaculate condition. And he also had baby Pippins, baby Indestructs, original Blazers, the Seinfeld canvas shoes that were only given out as promotions to people that worked at Seinfeld. He had those in his room. There was a crazy collection of shoes that I saw the first night. So we got to interact and get to know each other, and that was cool. And I got to interact with other collectors that night, as you can see in this photo, and you can see a bunch of the other guys that I met. So the next morning, Steve and I shared a hotel room. He's aka Sneaker Tech Talk. And we got up super early to attend my first trip to Nike World Headquarters, his second trip to Nike World Headquarters. I was so excited for this day because since I was 10, I wanted to go to where these shoes were being created or made. And for my first time at the Nike World Headquarters, I have to tell you, it was cooler than I thought it was going to be. Our tour guide, Greg, he himself is a sneaker collector, a sneaker enthusiast, and him working at Nike and having him as our tour guide was even better because he was as passionate as we were towards what we were seeing on the campus. We all met early morning around 9 o'clock, I think, and there was other sneaker collectors and enthusiasts that showed up that weren't at the bar the night before. Even sneaker celebrities, if you follow Complex Magazine or Complex Sneakers, Brendan Dunn was there. If you're an OG sneakerhead, you know that Alex Wang, aka Retro Kid, is probably the very first sneaker collector that you've ever seen or that you read about. And it was cool to meet Alex, and I think over the trip we became good friends. on our passion for the Andre Agassi line. And later on, I'll show you some crazy collection that guy brought out that blew our minds. But meeting those people in the flesh, getting to interact with other collectors and sneaker enthusiasts was awesome. Aaron Cooper, but didn't join us on the tour because he no longer works at Nike. First stop was the Michael Jordan building, which I was super excited about, but I kind of knew what was going to be in there. It was going to be that collection of all white Air Jordan sneakers, from 1 all the way to whatever number it is right now, 36, I think. And a couple of the pairs were gold. And if you didn't know why those couple of pairs were gold, and one in between the 13 and 14 wasn't gold, is because Michael Jordan won the NBA championship in those shoes, except for the 13 because he technically didn't wear it on the championship game. It was cool to see that collection of Air Jordans. I would have preferred the original collection that was in there early on in the Nike archives, where they had all the original colorways on display in that case. Would have been awesome to see. There was some art on the wall, Michael Jordan art, some Dorbenbecker products that kids had on display with the Air Jordan. To see the office, I didn't go into the office, but you could see that Wings logo behind the doors was pretty cool to see above the secretary. It was cool to be in that building and know that that's where some of the designs come out of. And I actually got to meet one of the Nike designers that works on the projects. He was really nice to me. His name was Jermaine. He told me about some Air Jordan products that he's working on, but I can't talk about it, that kind of thing, which is cool. But it's cool to get to know someone. He as well is a sneaker collector himself and a sneaker enthusiast. And it was cool to see him tell stories about the inside, like how he evolved into working at Jordan Brand / Nike from just collecting sneakers. And it was really cool to hear his story. As we toured around the Nike World Campus, we got to see the building that I was most excited to see, the Bo Jackson building. If you don't know, I'm a huge Bo Jackson fan. I'm also a huge Michael Jordan fan, probably more than Bo Jackson, but Bo Jackson is the athlete that I was introduced to first as a young kid. So Bo Jackson really means a lot to me. So when I got to see the building, I was so excited to go inside. And Greg, our tour guide, goes, "Oh, we're going to continue the tour. We won't actually go inside the Bo Jackson building." And I was, oh my God, I'm shocked because I've waited how long to come to this World Campus and I don't get to go into the Bo Jackson building. So I was kind of a little choked at the moment. I know what's in that building. I know there's an array of Bo Jackson collectibles and posters and Nike stuff that I would love to see in person rather than seeing photos that I've seen on the internet. So as we're walking around, we run into one of my friends that I've been friends with for a very long time on Instagram. Now, I didn't know that my friend Casey, which is his name, worked at Nike. So I was like, "Casey, what are you doing here? I didn't know that you were coming on the trip. It's awesome to see you." He's like, "I work here." And I was like, "What? What do you mean you work here?" And he said he's been working there for like 5 years or whatever. And I was like, I didn't even know. We've been friends for so long on the internet talking about sneakers and collectors and collectibles and stuff like that over the years. And he's worked at Nike the whole time. So I kind of gave him a little nudge like, "Man, I'm a little choked. I didn't get to go into the Bo Jackson building." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, these tours don't always go into this, blah, blah, blah." So I was like, okay, well, I guess I can't. We're not going to go to the Bo Jackson building. So anyways, we wander on around the Nike World Campus and we see the Japanese garden that they have on the World Campus, which is really cool as a little walkway for athletes and workers to take a walk to clear their mind while at work. There's the LeBron James building, which I didn't get to go in, but I know some of the guys went in. There's a lot of LeBron collectibles in that building and other artists and designers on the Nike basketball products that are coming out now and in the future. You got the Serena Williams building. We passed the Jerry Rice building. There was a little space where you could see all the buildings at once, and they all had very cool design aspects to each building, kind of representing their sport. There was the Nolan Ryan building, was pretty cool, which was shaped like you could see that it was shaped like a baseball stadium almost, and that was pretty cool to see. As we're walking around and into there was a Nike, I think this was the running building, I can't really remember, but it had some artifacts of some Nike running products from the early days of Nike and Blue Ribbon Sports. As we left that building, we actually ran into one of the famous designers from the early 90s or late 90s, Wilson Smith, who designed a lot of the Andre Agassi line in the late 90s, when the Zoom Air came in. He also designed, most famous for designing the Nike more up-tempo with Scottie Pippen. We got to interact with Wilson Smith, and he was telling us stories about his designs and what he does at Nike now and that kind of thing. And we all gathered around him and listened to his stories. We all took pictures with him. We got to talk to him. And we invited him out to this event that we were having later on in the night, which I didn't think he was going to come or anything to do with that. It was cool to interact with Wilson Smith and getting to know him. He is very humble and would tell us stories about Nike basketball and working with Scottie Pippen and all of that kind of thing. I mean, it was really neat. And while we're standing there with Wilson Smith, Drake Dramberg walked up. And Drake, if you don't know who Drake Dramberg is, Drake Dramberg, he does a lot of designs now for soccer, for the jerseys and the fits, but he actually designed, in my world, the basketball world, he actually designed one of the coolest logos, which is the Nike Air Flight logo. And he also did the Chris Webber logo. If you ever seen the Nike Air Max Chris Webbers, the up-tempo, or I can't remember the name of them, but his logo with the CW on the back, that's Drake Dramberg also did that. So I got to talk to Drake Dramberg a little bit, and we kind of bonded over certain things that he does. And as we're leaving that kind of gathering, I saw Prestology, aka Leon, who actually was one of the curators to bring back the Nike 180. And I ran up to him, and he's like, I'm pretty sure he's a young guy, younger than me. But I was like, oh my gosh, Prestology, Leon, thank you for bringing back the Nike Air 180, as it is one of my favorite Nike running shoes of all time. And that, I asked him a few questions about his how they brought it back and design and that kind of stuff. So it was cool to meet Leon. I may have been a little overwhelming when I met him, so he might think that I was a little too much, but it was cool to actually interact with him. As we continued on the tour for that day of Nike, we just kind of toured the campus, and we gathered back the front where they had this little luncheon, and we all had they have like this almost like it feels like a university campus being on the world campus, and they have like a lunch area where you can have a Chinese, or you can have a burger, or you could have a pizza or whatever. As we all gathered to have lunch, I actually sat with Drake Dramberg, and we kind of shot the shit for a few moments, talking sports and design and what he did at Nike and what he does at Nike, what he does now. And it was cool to talk with someone that you kind of followed for a little while on art and design. Lunch finished up, and we all met back at the front gates where the big Nike is. And my friend Casey taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, come with me." And I was like, "Casey, what's up?" And he's like, "Just come with me, just come with me." So he takes me to the Bo Jackson building, and I was pumped at this point. And he goes, "Okay, let's go in and we'll go take a look." So, because he works at Nike, he's allowed to go into the area. So what's inside? It's like a gym. It's like a gym for all Nike athletes or Nike personnel to come work out on their breaks or their lunch or whatever. But inside, the most amazing collection of Bo Jackson memorabilia. As there's big giant posters of Bo Jackson on the wall. This big display that I wanted to see, which has a fresh pair of Nike Trainer Max 91s. If you look behind me, they're right here, but there was a fresh pair on display in this case with the Raiders helmet signed by Bo Jackson, White Sox hat signed by Bo Jackson, his original White Sox Comiskey Park jersey signed by Bo Jackson, baseball bat signed by Bo Jackson. And if you look past the case, you can see there's a football field in the background, which is called the Bo Jackson football field, where athletes can practice or test out a new cleat. As we left there, I thanked Casey. That was probably one of the most generous things for him to do, and I was so pumped. And he looked at me and said, "Do you really think I was going to let you leave Nike campus and not see the Bo Jackson building?" Now, I thought that was super nice of him. I shook his hand, gave him a great big hug, and I said thank you. And as we were leaving the Nike World Campus, I stood in front of the campus, looked up and said, wow, you know what? That was a better experience than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't even about what I saw. It was the people that I was with. The people that I was with was so passionate about what they do or what they collect or what they do in the sneaker world, which made so much, made it more special being there with them. So as we left Nike World Campus, we headed over to the Nike employee store. And if you haven't been to the Nike employee store, if you ever gone to a Nike outlet, times the size of that Nike outlet by 6, and it's that big. And I'll tell you that you could see there was a an amount of shoes that I've never seen before at a store, but there was nothing that I really wanted, so I didn't really get anything at the store. It was cool to see. I'll throw some pictures up of some random shoes that were on display that were for sale. Nothing that I was like, oh my God, I need to have it. So, but it was cool to go to that store. Now that's still day number 1, which was, the day is not even over, and that ended around like 1 o'clock. I don't know. I can't remember. But the next event that we went to, this is what, I can't even explain how this even came about or I don't even know what it is, but we all know what it is when we're there. It's like a cultivation of sneaker enthusiasts together, real sneaker collectors, sneaker enthusiasts, people who love sneakers, but we're not looking at this table of sneakers and going, oh my God, that's like $30,000 or $1 million. No, we're talking about the designs and the feelings they bring to us, these sneakers, the people that design them, other collectors that get our hearts racing. So it was cool. So we showed up at this this coffee shop that's not open yet, but it's going to be called Dead Stock Coffee, and it's actually going to be brought to the world by an ex-Nike employee. And what it will have is some sneakers on display, and it'll be a coffee shop. So anyways, we get there, we're talking and interacting with each other, talking to Retro Kid. Everybody's slowly coming in and bringing some shoes, and then people are bringing some shoes and putting them on the table for display. Steve, Sneaker Tech Talk, brings out some Gary Paytons and some Jordan 11s that he had in his bag, and he put it on the table. Nick Petula, if you don't know who he is, he's a writer for Slam Magazine, also for Soul Collector. He brings out some rare gems on the table. Other collectors bring out their shoes, and there's an array of shoes on display. Dr. Souls has some crazy samples, player exclusive that I just crazy. Like the amount of shoes and the stuff that we're seeing. There's shoes on there that I wanted, like these Nike Air Pressure samples, as you can see in the picture here. I want these. And these are Retro Kids. Retro Kid, he has shoes like I'm talking that you wouldn't even believe what this guy has. And Retro Kid at that night brings out a box full of original Nike Tech Challenge 2s and 3s. He's got the limited editions, he's got the originals. These are all original from the early 90s. And as he brings this box out, we all lose our mind. And in walks, during this whole commotion of sneakers, in walks Aaron Cooper, and he designed the Air Pippin 2s. He designed the Air Flight 95s, like crazy shoes, Aaron Cooper. In walks Tinker Hatfield, the legend of all the sneaker designers, Tinker Hatfield. In walks Wilson Smith. And then in walks Tom Andrich. Like, these are all sneaker designers and artists that draw up these sneakers, and we have them on the table, sneakers that they made on the table, and they're having beers with us, and we're talking about what the sneakers mean to us, the designs. I got to talk to Tinker Hatfield for a few moments, talking about the shoes that I love, the Air Trainer 3, the Air Tech Challenge 2, and the Air Jordan 4, and how they're similar with their wings on the side and this and that. And Tinker told me a story about how some of these shoes came into play, where he went over to Andre Agassi's house, and he's playing tennis with Andre Agassi at his house on Andre Agassi's tennis court. Tinker says that he got a point on him, and Andre Agassi was like, nope, and then kicked his ass right after that. And then they discussed some of the products in their line, which was cool. Cool to hear a story that Tinker telling about how some of these shoes came about. And that was during the Lava Air Tech Challenge 2 story. So he said that Andre Agassi kicked his ass when they were designing that Air Tech Challenge 2, which was really cool to hear. And I actually got Tinker Hatfield to sign his shoe, the Air Trainer 3, even though because I was only wearing the Viotech colorway on my feet, and I didn't bring any shoes to display at the event, which I kind of should have and would have got the Air Jordan 11 signed by Tinker Hatfield. But it's okay because I got to meet Tinker Hatfield. He signed my shoe. I actually got to meet Aaron Cooper, and he signed one of the shoes that he gave to us later on in the event, and I got his autograph. And Wilson Smith, I talked to Wilson Smith, talking to him about the Andre Agassi line, about the Air Jordan 17, because I always wanted to know about the Air Jordan 17 and the shroud going over the laces, because I don't think that shroud was supposed to be able to take off. I think it was supposed to be one elastic piece on the top of the shoe. And you know what? Wilson Smith couldn't remember the design that I was talking about. But you know what? I got to talk to Wilson Smith and these guys for a while. Great to hear stories from them. Tom Andrich brought out the story about the Air Tech Challenge 4 and why the colors on the back heel are different, how some of these came up. He told us the story again, even though we already know it, but he told us the story again, how his famous Nike Tech Challenge flaming ball came to life. It was really cool to hear that story. On through the night, we were there till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, talking sneakers, talking history, drinking beer, talking about some of the models on our table. It was great to hear stories from other people and their attraction to sneakers. And what, you know, I talked to other designers who told us stories about him working with Bill Bowerman. He worked for Nike for a long time. He worked with Tinker, he worked with Aaron Cooper, he had some crazy stories about models that didn't come out and why the Jordan 11 looks like the Air Darwin and all this kind of stuff. And it was crazy. It was crazy to hear these things. And that whole time we didn't leave. We always wanted to, like, we were kind of wandering to the door, but we never left. So 3 in the morning, talking sneakers with all these sneaker enthusiasts was great. That was only day number 1. Now, the next day, we got up early and we went to a TED Talk. And you know what? They have some really cool plans in Portland to do with sneakers. I'll tell you that. What they have planned for the future in Portland. And I'm glad that I was invited to the event and letting them know my insights on the sneaker world. And it was cool to be at that event. And you know what? I got a free pair of shoes by the Equals brand, courtesy of Aaron Cooper, and that was really neat. And like I said, he signed the pair that I have. And you know, I could say that right now that Aaron Cooper is the nicest guy I've ever met, and I could say that he has become a friend, and I could probably ask him any question about anything moving forward. And after that, we ended up going to Portland Gear. If you haven't heard of Portland Gear, it's a independent company in Portland that sells backpacks, shirts, and hats, and they represent their community of Portland. And they do have some very cool products, so if you want to check them out, it's portlandgear.com, and we got to see some of the products that are coming out in the future, and we heard his story. It had really nothing to do with sneakers, but his story about how he became an independent company in Portland. And as we left there, we ended up going out for dinner, and this was the last event with everybody. You know what? That last event, you got to say your goodbyes to the people that you met. You got to meet new people that maybe that weren't on the initial event. Like I got to meet a couple people that worked for Wieden & Kennedy. And if you didn't know who Wieden & Kennedy is, they are the advertising company that brought all those Nike commercials into our world. And, you know, from the Little Penny commercials to the Mars Blackman commercials to the Revolution commercial. And I just told them my feeling about Wieden & Kennedy. To me, Wieden & Kennedy is like the Howard Hughes of sneaker commercials, where it kind of hits you in the heart. Like it makes you feel good. Like Howard Hughes movies, like The Breakfast Club. It makes you feel good inside about watching those movies. And that's what those commercials did to me. And I just kind of mentioned that out of the blue. I don't know if anyone heard me or not. And all the people that were at the event came to dinner. Wilson Smith was there. Aaron Cooper was there. Was talking about more sneaker designs and collections and stuff like that. And it was really cool to see. There was Chad. He works for Jordan Brand now. He designs the new Jordans. And he was talking about the effect that Aaron Cooper had on him. Man, it was just like mind-blowing, the people that I met on this event. And I could tell you right now that all those people that I met on the event, all of them are true sneaker enthusiasts, and it was great to be able to interact with other people like me. I could go on for hours and talk more about the stories and stuff and the people I met. Individually, You guys all know who you guys are, and what, like, I'm going to tell you guys right now, all you guys mean the world to me, and I had a great time with all you. There's not one person that I went home and was like, I don't really like that guy. No, I like everybody I met on the trip. It was crazy because we all were on the same wavelength. We were all on the same wavelength. It was a great trip. I can't wait for the next one and more people to meet. Unbelievable. I think that's the night. The night left. We gave our hugs and our high fives. A big shout out to one of my good friends here in Canada from Calgary, Steve at Sneaker Tech Talk. He is the guy that brought me on this trip, and without him, I wouldn't have got to experience the greatest sneaker event of all time. Hope you enjoyed the story today, and don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share. You know what? Hit that like button if you want to. But until next time,